Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli, and this is the Storyteller Forecast for Aquarius for February 2016. Check out my website, anniehelpsyou.com, or click on the link below this video, where you can see my astrology blog and more blogs and all kinds of other stuff. And also, if you're interested in learning astrology, February I will open registration for my astrology apprenticeship program, so you can see more about that then. So what's going on in this very active month of February? We have things going on in February that are notable. We have things going on after February that are notable and relevant for February. Something specific for Aquarius, some general things. So we have a lot to talk about as usual. First thing I want to talk about is birthdays, because if you are a February born Aquarius, then it will be your birthday, and maybe you've listened to my report last month, but it is still important enough to listen again and reiterate these points. Birthday wishes are astrological, and birthday wishes are real, and birthday wishes are powerful. So the sun in your chart, the sun in the sky, energetically represents what you want, your desires, what lights you up. And so when the sun in the sky gets back to the same point in your chart where it was when you were born, this is your solar return. And by the way, if you're watching because you have Aquarius rising, you will still get a very similar energy when the sun crosses over your ascendant. It's very much a rebirth cycle. So you can do all the things as if it were your birthday with the wishes and with the vision board and the other things that I recommend. And try it out and see how it works, because the energy of rebirth is very strong, whether it's for your sun sign that you're watching or for your rising sign that you're watching. Okay, so the sun comes back to where it was when you were born, and it makes this portal that makes the universe especially receptive to your wishes. So you've got 10 birthday wishes. You want to write them down. You want to really sit with figuring out what you want to create. You want to feel them as if they're coming true. This is the most important key to manifestation. You have to feel something as if it's true, kind of like a fake it till you make it, in order to bring it into your space. This is the key to manifesting. And if you do this on a wonderful power day, a power time like your birthday or when the sun crosses over your ascendant, your wishes have even more power. Write them down, say them out loud, feel them as if they're coming true. Do a vision board. A vision board is where you clip out pictures, phrases, things that carry the energy of what you want to create in that next year. Somebody wrote on one of my Sag reports where I was talking about a vision board for a Sag birthday a while ago, and she was asking about doing a vision board online. And I had never done that before, but I want to mention it because there are fabulous apps and things for you to do vision boards online. So you can either clip out magazine pictures and things like that, or you can do them online. It's something you want to have in your space regularly, that you look at regularly, that impresses upon your subconscious mind to assist in the creation. That is part of the wisdom behind making it. I mean, sometimes you can even make it and then not even look at it, and you'll still find that those things are coming true. So there's a lot to it. But in any case, that's birthdays. So what happens on your birthday is magical. What happens when the sun moves over your ascendant is magical. What happens the 4 weeks before that occurs, and these 4 weeks are going to be different for each of you. It's the 4-ish or so weeks before the sun moves over your ascendant, or before the sun is crosses over your sun, which is your birthday. So before it gets to those magical points, it goes through this time where it doesn't feel as magical. It feels a little bit heavy. It's like a funkiness. And this is by design, because the sun moves through your 12th house, which is your deep unconscious mind, bringing light, bringing spotlight and focus on the things that you avoid like the plague. So everything that you've swept under the rug, everything you've put in the attic, everything that you forgot about and didn't want to deal with, things that you didn't even know about to deal with, ancestral issues, things that are past life, whatever it comes from, are stored in the attic. So these fears and these discomforts and anxieties come up before your birthday or the sun crosses over your ascendant. And they come up purposefully so that you can work with them to use the things that you're challenged with to make your birthday wishes. So if you have certain fears about things, you can ask for your birthday wishes for your fears on this topic to be lifted, for you to let go, for you to move without fear, move bravely towards whatever it is that you're working on, So it's uncomfortable, and sometimes people might associate it with getting older, another year passing and not really feeling like they've done what they wanted to do. There's a lot of reasons why people feel anxious before their birthdays. But astrologically, it's because the sun is just bringing to light all of these gifts that are in the attic, but also the challenges that can turn into gifts if you use them the right way. So we have all that going on. Now, I want to place February in the scheme of some of the other months and for the rest of the year before we talk about some aspects that are specifically happening in February. And one of those is the eclipses. The eclipses actually happen in March. March 8th, we have a solar eclipse at 18 degrees of Pisces. Solar eclipses bring in new energy, and when I do the March reports, I'll be talking all about the eclipses. So new opportunities coming in. The lunar eclipse on March 23rd, 3 degrees of Libra, closes out things. There's endings, there's completions. And eclipses are very powerful because they carry the weight of 3 new moons for the solar eclipse and 3 full moons for the lunar eclipses. So the same new energy that we have each new moon. It's like that times 3 new big openings. The same closeouts or endings that we have at full moons. We have that times 3 with the eclipses. So the timeline for experiencing the news or the events that are eclipse related can be up to 6 weeks before the actual eclipse. So this is bringing us, starting at the end of January, we can really start to receive news or word or something specific or the feeling of changes to come from the eclipses that don't even take place until March. So February is super ripe with the possibilities of these pieces of information coming in, and very often they are life-changing pieces of information. Sometimes it's quite obviously great life-changing news, like, wow, that's like really good news. And sometimes they're like, it's terrible news. The worst news that you could have is, could happen on an eclipse. But I know for sure this, even in the difficult news, if you have difficult news that comes from this eclipse or any other eclipse, there is something within you that wants to come out, that the universe is timing this event that is challenging for you as part of a pressure cooker to create your best life. So within the worst challenge can be the most triumph and the most movement along your personal destiny. And sometimes that piece of us is so much lodged in behind so many other things that it takes an event of monumental proportions to get it out. So astrologers will often talk about eclipses as being non-negotiable. So things come from outside of you and you can't do anything about them. Also, they will talk about them as being offering corrections. So you might be on a certain trajectory, and then eclipse news comes in, and it just takes you right over this way. So February is an interesting month in the way that it's really a good month for taking action on some things, one of the better months throughout the whole year. But at the same time, you're still in the shadow of Mercury retrograde, which makes any changes that you make maybe a little bit less permanent than you think they are, or a little bit will turn out a little bit differently than you're planning. And at the same time, you've got the eclipses that might come and trump what you're trying to do. So we have our plan for ourselves, which is your personal plan, your agenda, your plan. Then you have the divine plan. So my will versus thy will, the divine plan for you and your plan for yourself. So if you are on the right track, well, every track is the right track. You're always moving in wherever you're supposed to be. But if you're not moving in the direction you need to be, when the eclipses come, they will set you on, or give you a chance to be set on the trajectory. And that may be completely in support of what your plan was for yourself. Maybe you were very receptive to the divine plan and you took it on as your plan and you're on the right track. So then the eclipses will come and give that plan a boost in a big way. Or it could take you completely what seems like off track because you're supposed to be going down a different track. So just be very open and flexible as you implement your agenda this month. And there are some great times to do that. The February 3rd, February 8th, February 9th, 10th, 13th are all rich with beautiful aspects that require action to make the most of them. And so you can make some decisions on moving forward with some things. But if it happens that those decisions you make seem to be thwarted or changed, then the more you roll with it and the less resistance you have, the easier time it's going to be. So let's talk about Mars retrograde as well. Mars is going to officially go retrograde April 17th through June 29th. Mars goes retrograde about every 2-ish years. It's one of the personal planets. The personal planets are the ones closest to us. So the ones that go retrograde are Mercury, Mars, and Venus. And whenever one of those are retrograde, it brings it very close to home. You know, it interferes with things that we think we're supposed to be doing. And it slows things down. Mars rules your vital energy. It rules your assertiveness, your drive, your passions. So when Mars is in retrograde, you become less driven. And for some people who are overachievers, like myself, when Mars goes into retrograde, I'm like, I feel like maybe like a normal person might feel like, because I don't feel overambitious and I feel just like very centered. And so if you are an overachiever, when you have Mars go in retrograde, you might have a welcome reprieve from yourself, the way that energy moves through you, you know? But if you are someone who is not motivated by nature and you have a hard time gathering momentum, then when Mars goes into retrograde, you're really going to feel like a lump on a log because you'll have no drive to move forward. It's a very internal process, and it's not the best time to launch things forward anyway, unless they're things from the past. So that's part of why February is this important month, because Mars goes retrograde April 17th through June 29th, but its shadow period actually starts in February, and it gets more influential the closer it gets to the middle of April. So in February, we have half of the month with Mars retrograde shadow starting, half of the month with Mercury retrograde finishing, the shadow finishing. So you'd say, well, how does that make it a good month for action? And in some ways, it isn't a good month for action, but if you compare it to the rest of the months in the calendar year, it's a much better month for action than so many of the other months are because of these retrogrades. So that is why we want you to try to move some things forward this month with the flexibility that the eclipses may change things. Or perhaps you're moving things forward based on changes that eclipse news has already brought in which case it will be fully aligned. So February 3rd, we've got two beautiful 60-degree angles. We've got Mars in a 60-degree angle with Pluto. We have the Sun in a 60-degree angle with Saturn. 60-degree angles are positive angles, but there are ones that require action. That's why I'm calling this month a time for action, because the blessings of the stars in a coherent angle such as a 60-degree angle come from doing something with it. It's not like a trine, which is a 120-degree angle, which brings beautiful things regardless of what you do. You don't have to do anything, and it just shows up. It's easy. These 60-degree angles are not like that. You have to do something with them. And on February 3rd, you have two of these. So if something comes in and it's like, ooh, this has a lot of potential, you got to do something with it. Even though Mercury isn't done with its shadow period, I would do something. If something comes to me on that day and it feels right, it doesn't matter whether Mercury is direct or not. I mean, whether the Mercury shadow period is done or not. I would do it. Mercury was retrograde January 5th through January 25th. But the shadow period, where it's kind of getting its bearing straight, lasts through February 15th. But there's all these beautiful dates to move forward on things before that happens. So you might just have to take advantage of it. And again, it will especially support things you've done in the past. If you're redoing something that you've already done, if you're doing something you've already done in a different way, if you're carrying along a continuum, something that's already in motion, it's going to support those things more than brand new things. But if you have brand new things, February is still one of the better months in the year to bring them out. So if you've been waiting to launch something, that might be the time to do it. Because once you have Mars retrograde, that's definitely not going to be the time to do it. Okay, so then February 5th through 6th, we have this powerful lineup of Venus, Pluto, and the Moon all conjunct. So they're all in the same place. And then Venus and the Moon are going to square Uranus. And Uranus is this wild card where it just brings in these jostling pieces. Uranus and the eclipses act in some similar ways where things just kind of feel like they come out of the blue. So there's this aspect of a wild card on these days, but fortunately on February 6th, the sun is making a nice aspect to Uranus. Again, a 60-degree angle. So it's like kind of soothing Uranus a little bit, you know, putting it in a little bit of a better mood than it would be if there wasn't that angle. But there's still, you might be in for some surprises that you're not very excited about at that point. The eclipses might bring big ones. This Uranus transit might bring smaller ones, and you won't be able to tell the difference between them except their magnitude. You know, if something is really like a long-term jostling thing, it's probably related to the eclipses. If it's something is a shorter-term annoyance surprise, it's probably related to this Uranus aspect. Then on February 7th, we have a Sun square Mars aspect, which is challenging, but at the same time, we have Venus in this beautiful 60-degree angle with Mars. And we know whenever Venus and Mars get together, it's just wonderful. These are the star-crossed lovers that always want to be together in some way, connected. So it's like for every challenging angle this month, there's something alongside of it making it a little bit lighter, which is part of the reason why I feel like it's very supportive to moving forward, because, you know, anything that could possibly be difficult as far as the shorter term transits are supported by these other rich 60-degree angles that are rich with potential. So then we've got the new moon in Aquarius on the 8th, February 8th. So this is a new moon in your sign. Whenever it's a new moon in your sign, this is like a power time for you. So this is really magical. And most of you, all early and most middle degree placements, maybe even all middle degree placements, are going to experience this in your first house. So when you have a new moon in your first house, it's like all about you. It's your new reinvention time. It's a time of great enthusiasm and optimism. It's a time for, you know, reinventing yourself and for seeing if your image is matching with what you're trying to convey. It's a time where you can have more authenticity with what you're putting out there, with your message, you know? So if you're doing things a certain way and some things are not matching up, this is a time to bring those things on board so that what you're bringing more fully. Those of you late degree placements, so let's talk about the early, middle, and late degree placements. If you've been watching my reports, you know that I like to break up transits in this way because the chart of an early degree placement looks totally different often than a late degree placement. So if you were born from January 21st through January 30th, you're an early degree placement. If you were born from the 31st through the 9th of February, then you're a middle degree placement. If you're born from the 10th through the 20th, or like the 10th through, you know, the 11th through the 20th, something like that, then you're a late degree placement. So you later degree placements, you're going to have this new moon in your 12th house, and that's a totally different energy than the first house. So your time for like busting out into the new reinvention, that might be coming next new moon cycle. But this one is more about the 12th house, which is dealing with those deep hidden things that are interfering with you moving forward in this powerful way. So you might have some more inner work to do. Some fears might come up. I often call the energies that happen in the 12th house Harry Potter things. And even though this is a new moon, which can be a little bit softer than a full moon in that placement, it's still the energy of something new happening in this deep unconscious place. So your dream time becoming more supercharged, you know, working with your subconscious mind through hypnosis or past life regression or using subliminal messaging, things like that. Retreats, quiet time, rest, regeneration. It makes me think of, recently I was at a farmer's market in a city close to me, and I was excited to see a spot, and it turned out it wasn't a spot for me, it was a spot for an electric vehicle. It was a charging station, which I'm so excited about. I was happy to not have a spot just because this is becoming more prevalent and I'm excited about it. But it's like a place where a person can sit and look at the beautiful park and look at the water, Tampa Bay, and recharge their vehicle. And that's what the 12th house is like. You know, it's like it's a time to recharge your body vehicle, your mind vehicle, your energy, your batteries, so that when the energy starts to move into the first house for you in the time coming, then you'll be really ready for all the action and activity that comes with that vibrant movement. So then we have on February 13th, another nice aspect with Mars and Jupiter. and that's a good day for moving things forward. February 22nd, we have the full moon at 3 degrees of Virgo, and all of you will be experiencing this in your 7th house. Your 7th house is your house of relationships, one-on-one relationships. So fullness, completion, fruition, possibly drama, possibly emotional in a really good way. Something happens with one of your or more of your relationships at this time. Usually the emotions that come from full moon related things are things that pass quickly. But since the eclipse energy is so close, you might have the full moon and the eclipse for the following month join together and bring something of longer term consequence that is emotional. So we won't really know, because these mixing of energies, we never know how they're going to show up. But we definitely know that there'll be fullness, completion, fruition, endings, closings, something like that in a relationship sector. And it doesn't have to be a bad thing. It could be a really cool thing. So then we've got on February 28th, the Sun conjunct Neptune in Pisces. So the Sun and Neptune will be together in Pisces. And this is a very dreamy, artistic time, but it can also magnify, again, like this energy of fear. That 12th house, Harry Potter realizing that his fears outside are really within him, and that's where he has to deal with them, you know? So it could be a great time for artistic ventures, but if you have some fears coming up, then you can do something about them in a permanent way. So I can't see what's going on in your personal chart. If you'd like some help with that, you can check out my website, anniehelpsyou.com, and click on coaching. You can also check out my 28-day virtual coaching program called Shine, which is available on a sliding scale, so it's available to everyone. You can click on anniehelpsyou.com and then click on programs and then go to Shine. And this program is wonderful because it's like me being able to work with you, but it's at a rate that's affordable for me working with you every day through a 29-day moon cycle, basically. So I've gotten to work with thousands of people over many years and help them to get through the things that are blocking them from having their highest expression in this lifetime. And so the Shine program puts those things that I teach in one place where you can get at them. So check it out. Also check out my astrology blog. And if you're interested in learning astrology in February, I'll be opening registration for my astrology apprenticeship program, where we get down and dirty in astrology land and we use the charts of the participants to learn. So check it out, anniehelpsyou.com, and I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.